Our protagonist Julia was questioned directly at the beginning of the story where his father was at the moment, but he was only a first year in high school. And now he found himself sitting in the living room with a number of intimidating-looking men in black suits and sunglasses. These guys are obviously not the kind to get connected with at all, as evidenced by the numerous scars on their cheeks. That he responded that he had just returned home and had no idea where his father was. The man pointed to a card he had discovered on the table that said something that infuriated him, enough to make him rip it to pieces. According to the card, Ya's father had fled. In addition, he abandoned his own son alone while still cursing him for being a bad father, according to his father's belief. Ya believed that there was no true way to predict what would occur in life. His father was the kind of person who would never stop exploring the possibility of creating a new product that would eventually become popular. However, he was constantly lagging behind, which led to his debt growth. The fact that his mother was in love with his father made things in his home even worse. Even when she was with Yuya, people used to mistake her for a sibling because of her looks, but he was a little proud of his mother for her amazing cooking and youthful appearance at that age. When he questioned her about why she had married a worthless man like his father, she replied that she had fallen in love with the way his father never stopped trying, no matter how unsuccessful. At something, Yuya could see how blindness could result from love, and he had nothing but respect for anybody who put in their best effort. However, his father had previously surpassed him in order to win his respect. He felt somewhat bad about his present situation and not discussing it with them before. He questioned Taka, the intimidating man, about the amount of money his father had borrowed from him. Taka initially became angry, but eventually calmed down after realizing that there was no purpose in arguing with Yuya after that. He gently informed Yuya that the debt was $30 million, which was excessive even for a high school student. Taka claimed that Yuya's father never stopped taking out loans in order to repay them, which is how his debt continued to grow since he had known Taka since elementary school. Yuya was not frightened of him or other boys, although he gave off the impression of being a rough guy. Taka was actually a nice guy who treated him like an elder brother. Taka attempted to figure out how he would pay $30 million, but all of his savings seemed insignificant in comparison to such a big sum. The fact that Yuya's father abandoned his own kid in this manner and left everything to the lawyers damned Taka. He couldn't imagine how far he had gone to embarrass himself in that way. Yuya remembered the day he came home to discover that no one was there, except for a card that said the same words about leaving him and letting the lawyer to handle the situation. Taka informed him that despite being raised by such a terrible couple, it was a true wonder that he was raised well. Taka went on to say that he was the cause of Yuya's positive development, since everyone else around him was worthless. Yuya agreed with him and acknowledged that he had learned a lot from him. Taka inquired about Yuya's future plans regarding this matter and informed him that he would not be able to cover up for Taka because he couldn't lie to his boss this time. But he told Taka he might have to take him along with them. Taka knew what they were getting at and what it would be because he had no choice but to pay off the loan because he had no decent parents left. He could feel that this was how his life ended as he knew it. But he hoped it would be in a more dignified way than. Taka put his hands on his shoulders and promised to convince their supervisor to let Yuya work for him since Taka genuinely cared about him. He wanted to take every possible step to ensure Yuya had a decent life. That was good to hear. Yuya after that, Taka's supporters urged him to relax as well, and avoid becoming as illiterate as they are. They took care to inform Yuya that staying in his current state as a high school student was the best course of action for him. Following the discussions, Taka recommended that they start working as they had pledged to show him the best dojo they could create. Then his home's bell rang, and he went to open the door to see who it might be. As he opened the door, he was startled to discover Key standing in front of him at that very moment, smiling as she said she had come to assist him. She had long, straight black hair, pearl-like eyes, and an amazing beauty that could rival that of magazine models. And he was enthralled with her beauty. In front of him, she resembled a goddess who had emerged from a painting. The fact that the Hidetsuba child was here speaking to him still shocked him. She was just as adorable and kind as she seems. He questioned whether any of the students at his private high school in Mayware weren't swooning over her. She was so gorgeous that she won the Grand Prix in last year's National High School Girls Miss Contest because of her mature appearance and ideal proportions. She was essentially regarded as Japan's most beautiful high school female. Her sporadic smiles were captivating to both men and women because they resembled the smile of a goddess. Being one of the people who liked Keed, he couldn't help but wonder how it occurred that Keed knew where he lived. especially given they had never spoken to Yuya's face was flushed and he was staring at her without saying anything. When she asked him what was wrong, when she questioned him whether he had a cold, he replied that he was okay and didn't have a temperature then. In order to get a closer look at him and take his temperature, he removed her shoes to check on him. She placed her palm on his head and instructed him to remain motionless. She could sense that he was a little heated as he became more red than before. He told her he was okay and that she might be dreaming his temperature when she questioned if it would be better if he went to the hospital. He then asked her directly why she had come to his house and what she meant when she said, "Help him." She then requested permission to enter his house, but he was hesitant to grant it since Taka and his crew were inside. He wanted to respectfully deny her. He was aware that they were frightening on the outside, yet harmless on the inside. He reasoned that seeing such frightening people could make someone like Keed faint. His fear was suddenly realized as Taka himself approached the door because of his hectic schedule with the issues. Taka requested Yuya if he may have a visitor and informed him that they would require her to leave for the time being, that he didn't want Taka to come here at all. So he was surprised by how poorly things had happened before one of the guys recognized Keed. He was about to ask him to leave. He was pleased to realize that she was more attractive in person than on the internet when he asked her if she was related to the Hidetsuba family. When Taka asked the man whether he knew the young woman, he told him that she was Hidetsuba Kid, Japan's most beautiful girl. When the child heard that, he grinned. She then raised her voice and asked Taka if he was Yumichi Takashi, which was his real name, and if it would be more proper to refer to him as the lieutenant of the Hiratsu Syndicate. Taka was somewhat shocked upon hearing this, and his fingers began to shake. They all questioned how Keed knew about Taka's affiliation with the syndicate, in addition to his position within it. He didn't understand Card having a background connected to that dark and bloody side of the world, while Taka was left in turmoil. He tried to remain calm, but his face took on a frightening expression. Yuya reminded Taka of the time he had given gifts at events to cheer up the kids, but they were alarmed by his frightening face and told themselves to be even more gentle going forward. He told Yuya it was a different story now. Then he went to Keed in a firm voice. He questioned her about how she found out about him. She was wearing the same uniform as Yuya, which he could tell indicated that they were attending the same high school. She initially merely smiled back when he asked her who in the world she was. She said she wouldn't mind if he didn't remember her when she introduced herself to them. When Taka became enraged, he yelled at her while ignoring important details to he advised her not to think poorly of him. But Ki continued by calling Taka a simple-minded baboon. She continued to taunt Taka, even making light of his necktie's lackluster appearance. Although Yuya was taken aback and alarmed to witness Ki go so far as to retort and insult Taka while smiling. He knew that even if Taka was a highly competent individual in his line of work was meaningless then. In a frightful tone, Taka laughed it out, although he claimed that her tongue was sharper than her appearance. He would have severely disciplined her by now if she hadn't been someone Yuya knew. Even though he was in fact stumbling with tears in his eyes, he told her that he was simply giving her a pass this time, that in actuality, Taka wasn't as tough as he appeared to be, and Yuya could appreciate how he must be feeling after receiving such a severe insult. After that, Taka became serious and warned Yuya not to think he was a fool this time. Taka kept telling Keed that she was attempting to build him up, but she still hadn't responded to his question regarding her identity. He nodded negative, indicating that he hadn't spoken anything against him then. Using the name Hidetsuyo Kairo, she told Taka that he might recognize it. Taka had apparently heard about it as well, however. He was sweating more than usual. He asked her whether it was her father, because he was afraid to hear the name of the head of the Investigations Bureau of the National Police Agency. She denied that to him, but Yokaru was her uncle, and, like her father, he lavished her with affection. She then threatened Taka, claiming that her uncle would even misuse his power to comply with her request if she asked him for a favor, knowing that there was nothing he could do to stop her. Taka inquired as to what she planned to do with them. She explained that she just wanted them to give up Yuya in exchange for the 30 million yen that would eventually be handed to him as payment for the complete amount his father borrowed, including interest. After learning that Keed's uncle was the police head, Yuya was shocked to learn everything. She even planned to reimburse his father, who was perplexed by everything that had happened. Then a woman came up behind Kaide and told her not to walk alone. She introduced herself as Hidetsuba Sakurako, Keed's mother and a lawyer, and graciously apologized for the interruption. She called Taka by his position as soon as she got there and warned him that he might have gotten himself into a dangerous situation. Sakurako appeared serene and kind, but no one could get away from her because of her razor-sharp voice. Yuya sensed that Taka must be under a lot of stress right now. But Taka suddenly came up and said that he only wanted to return the money they had borrowed, and that Yuya's father was the one who passed away overseas without repaying them. Therefore, they were forced to hire Yuya later on. Even if he wasn't at fault, although Yuya was taken aback by Taka's fast return to calm, she understood that it was a difficult act and that he was truly afraid. It was definitely a reasonable thing to do for them. Taka said Taka was merely acting bravely. Sakurako then intervened, informing him that there was no such reasoning and cautioning him that Taiko's money-lending operation was unlawful in every way, so they didn't even need to figure out interest on that. Taiko declared that he wouldn't be in the money-lending industry if he were afraid of such warnings, that he labeled Sakurako a lawyer who was powerless to stop him, that if she had the courage, he challenged her to do what she could to him. It was evident to Yuya that Taka was exerting himself, and it was inevitable that his heart was racing as he broke out in a cold sweat. Then, in a cutesy manner, Sakurako piped up, making theatrical statements such as, "My papa was the coolest man in all of Japan." She said this to make fun of Taka, because his daughter used to say the same thing to him every day. She went on to describe her as cute, adding that his daughter used to claim that her father had been working hard every day for the sake of Mama and herself, because he left early in the morning and returned late at night. He always kissed her on the cheek and gave Mom a goodnight kiss on the lips. Taka was stunned by Sakuriko's accuracy, and, more significantly, how she found out about it that he was then made fun of by Sakuriko, who said that it was bold to do anything in front of a first grader. She pondered what his kid would think as she grew older if he continued to kiss her in front of her. Her statements seemed to carry a threatening meaning. Despite her insistence that they were spoken out of care, Taka understood that although they could accomplish a lot, he could do nothing to stop them. When Yuya saw Taka's head lowered in defeat, he was also taken aback and realized that the mother-daughter pair was undoubtedly frightening then, reminding Taka that he had informed his wife that he was only a regular salaryman. Sakurako cautioned him. Sakurako said that this was precisely what she meant when Taka told her that it had nothing to do with his wife or child. At that point, Yuya was not liable for repaying his father's debt, and had nothing to do with it either, although Yuya was ignorant of the law. He had the impression that since he was their son, he should be forced to comply with their wishes, since his parents were the source of Taka and the others' problems. Aside from that, Taka had been like a big brother to him from the beginning. Sakuriko then raised that if she pulled out some paper to negotiate with Taka and his employer, because they might not be happy if Yuya doesn't pay the bill. Taka read the documents after obtaining them. When he read the contents, he was astounded. Taka questioned her about her mental state and her exact thoughts. She acknowledged that she was just a regular lawyer, but that her employer was wealthy. Then he simply accepted her approach, and this was the end of it. Yuya was unable to comprehend the reason behind his vow that he would never touch her. He was shocked to learn that the letter's contents covered his enormous obligation in whole, that it was giving him the creeps. Sakurako then called his father an asshole for being one and verified that Yuya's father's debt had been fully paid. She had been discussing his father in passing, and Yuya wondered if she knew him. Taka also assured Yuya that the money had been paid, and he was happy for Yuya, because he would finally be able to live the honest and moral life he had always desired. Yuya was unable to comprehend Taka's words or the precise topic of the talk. Then, with a smile on her face, Keat approached and took his hands. When she informed him that he could now rest and she would tell him everything, he became agitated since she was too close to him. She reassured him that everything would work out and that he wouldn't have any more issues, although Yuya's eyes were glad to be at ease at last. He saw that Ki was shaking a little. Asked the other members of Yuya's father victims group. Sakurako then suggested that they take the two to Taka and asked him if he wanted to have tea with her. Taka refused, claiming that if he became connected with any of them, it would just lead to Korean problems. Before departing, he told Yuya that their relationship was over and that he doubted they would ever see each other again. He also told the other members of his team to leave as well, that he requested that he look after him. Although Yuya understood Taka's attempt to appear calm, he was aware of Taka's residence, that he learned about it from his wife, who invited him to return at any moment to meet Taka's daughter, Rika, so he could meet him at any time. Sakurako also left the rest to Ki now that the matter was resolved, as she thanked her mother. Sakurako apologized to Yuya for shocking him in this way. It won't be the same as it was before. She informed him that he would still be able to experience high school life as usual. though they were both alone after she went then. As Key had been trembling a lot, Yia asked her what was wrong. When he asked her if she was okay, she tried to act stupid by asking him what he was talking about and not shaking. She asserted that it was undoubtedly not, because she had been in front of those intimidating men and had overstimulated herself to avoid his attention, and now that she was alone herself, it wasn't as though she was experiencing the same fear as before. She talked a lot, and he was certain now that Taka had undoubtedly frightened Key, gently holding her hands. He promised to get her some tea, so she could rest briefly in the living room, and then tell him the entire incident. She chose to give him a thorough explanation after agreeing with him. She informed him that the debt his parents had left him had been settled, but with one catch. Yiya would now have to live with her. She smiled so brightly as she said it, although Yiya was taken aback. He was even more astonished to learn that he would be living with her, and was shocked that Keed, of all people, was saying that he was then terrified that he would now be murdered by all of her admirers in Japan as well as by all of the boys at the school. They should now proceed to the living room, she said, as she would now explain it to him. With a bright smile on her flushed face, she asked him to get up and accompany her. Her legs were still shaking with terror, though, and that was her main weakness at the moment. They then moved into the living room to discuss the matter, and she said she would now describe Yiya's current situation. She informed him that he was now her property and claimed that it could be summed up in a few words as well, with a naive expression. She stated that it was all there was to it.